Ben Simmons is currently averaging 5.6 points per game right now, and the Brooklyn Nets are one of the worst teams in all of basketball. And looking at the three best players on this team, him and then obviously KD and Kyrie, he is easily the one that you would point to as the one who is underperforming this season. It's not even a contest. If there's anyone to point a finger to for what's wrong with Brooklyn right now, it is Ben Simmons, and that is coming from me as someone who is very sympathetic to Ben Simmons because of the human side of all of this, because I hate to see him go through the shit that he has to go through, but just because I would with any other human. But the way that he has been playing is just straight up unacceptable. There's no other way to put it. There's no nice way to sugarcoat it. It's not okay the way that he has been playing. So I saw something on the timeline which inspired me to make this video. I was already going to talk about the Nets, but I didn't really feel like talking about that Nets-Bucks game, and I didn't watch the Nets-Dallas game other than, I think, a quarter and a half of it, and Ben did not play well in that quarter and a half of it. But either way, my point, I don't really want to talk about the Nets as a whole in this video, especially because I'm doing a main channel Nets video. But Ben Simmons specifically, there's a specific, I've said specific too much. There's a part of this whole thing that I want to talk about, which is, well, there's really two things. It is what he's at right now and why, and then talking about that. And then obviously, not obviously, this is the non-obvious thing. I want to talk about the fact that Ben is much worse than he used to be, which I know sounds kind of like duh, but it's more like the way that the narrative has been shaped, the way that people talk about Ben in such a negative way, suggests that Ben Simmons isn't regressing, he just was always bad. The way that people, like Ben Simmons, the most recent memory that people have of Ben before this season was him passing up that layup on Trae Young. Obviously, that's a bad look for him, and the most recent memory is going to be the one that sticks out the most, but I saw a clip on Twitter today that was a highlight mix of the early years of Ben Simmons' career. The first 3 years, I would assume it was mostly from, because that's when he was peak aggressive. The last peak of his level of aggressiveness, I should say. The season following that, his fourth year to last year in Philadelphia, that one, he definitely saw a regression in his aggressiveness. And you especially saw it in the playoffs, obviously, hence the passing it on Trae Young situation. But I saw the clip from the first 3 seasons of his career, and it was just a bunch of him transition dunks, him taking it to the rim, him getting set up and assisted on plays. And it reminded me that when we're talking about aggression with Ben Simmons, we're not, at this point, I'm not even asking for him to be what he should be. At this point, I'm asking him just to go back to what he was in terms of aggressiveness, because there's a huge difference between 6 points per game and 16. And even though the fact that he was averaging 16 when he was capable of averaging like 24 was a problem, at least it wasn't 6. Ben Simmons is someone who at the time was very clearly capable of averaging 20 plus points per game, because someone with that size, strength, agility, length, athleticism, speed, ball handling ability, especially being that good of a ball handler at his height. Like, Ben Simmons was built to score more than he does, but at least that version of him knew that sometimes. This year's Ben Simmons is passing up layups all the time. It is comical. It is sad more than anything else, but oftentimes it's like, dude, does your controller not have a shoot button, is what it feels like. Like, Ben doesn't consider a shot if it's not wide open at the basket, it feels like. Which is crazy, because he's a really good finisher, always has been. Not only is he just strong and lengthy, but he's also got decent, like, I don't want to say like a layup package, but you know what I mean, like doing reverses and shit. He has good touch, generally speaking. He had a fucking running hook shot that was like one of his go-to things. Ben Simmons was a lot more aggressive than this, and it was a lot better than this. And I hate this narrative that I see from Philadelphia fans now that Ben Simmons was always bad, or that this version of Ben that we're seeing right now is what he was. And it's just absolutely not true. Ben Simmons at his absolute peak was like bordering on a top 30 player in the league at the bare minimum, because he was like a borderline defensive player of the year and still giving you like 17, 7, and 7. So to act like Ben as he is right now is what he was then is ridiculous to me, and it's a problem. And I think it's an unfair way of looking at all of this, because Ben doesn't have to be the aggressiveness that we wanted from him. He just has to go back to what it was. Literally, all we're asking for is a return to the mean. It's not even exceeding those kinds of expectations. Now, I do want to give Ben Simmons this break. We're 5 games in, I believe. It's 5 for the Nets. And Steve Nash is a fucking awful coach. And I feel like the offensive system that Steve Nash has been running has significantly hindered the potential of Ben Simmons within this offense. So factor that into the equation. I do think that's hindering Ben more than anything else. I also feel like his back is a problem. I know that was a thing that people speculated on, like whether or not that injury was legitimate. Seemed to me that he pulled his back. I don't know. I saw a clip of it. I probably won't be able to find it. I would play it otherwise. But he grabbed his back in pain. And it really seems like he's grounded, you know? It seems like his back is like hurting, and it's preventing him from running as fast as he can, jumping as fast as he can. He seems like he's playing uncomfortable. And I'm gonna hope that that's a huge reason why he's not playing as well. Huge reason why his athleticism seems to have regressed almost, at least just from a visual standpoint. It appears as though he's slowed down. It appears as though he's not jumping as high as he was. If that fixes itself, and if you get a head coach in there that can actually run some fucking plays, like looking at that clip from Ben in the past, he was getting often involved in action in the half-court set on backdoor cuts and things like that. And also was a huge target on the fast break, but he's just not used as a threat, as a finisher at all. And he is perfectly capable of being that. Now, I understand a lot of it's the mentality thing, and he has passed up opportunities that he should have taken. But I also feel like those opportunities are coming far and few between. And if you want to get Ben Simmons to be consistently aggressive, you're probably going to also have to give him a consistent diet of shots and a diet of opportunity to get those shots. So my overall point, it's just been annoying to me how people have been acting like Ben Simmons is has always been bad. I especially hate hearing it from Sixers fans who were hyping him up as like a top 15 player. Not really, but like a top 20 player or whatever. Like seriously, Sixers fans hyped Ben Simmons up like crazy all the time, and now you want to switch up on him because he doesn't want to play for your team. I think that take is ridiculous. Ben Simmons was definitely not always bad. He had his limitations, to be sure. But yeah, I do think the mental stuff from this entire last year is affecting it, obviously, as well. But either way, I just really hope that this changes. And it's especially, like, I'm very much pulling for Ben Simmons, as much negative things as I've said in this. And the thing that irks me about the whole situation with him is that it really feels like a lot of people are hoping this continues. The way that I've seen people talk about Ben, I'm also seeing the same thing happen with Russ. It really genuinely feels like people are rooting for these guys to fail so that they can make their jokes or prove some sort of point. And it's very, very pathetic. I'm seeing it from fans across the spectrum, whether it be Philadelphia fans or otherwise. People who have hated on Ben Simmons for his entire career just because he doesn't shoot the ball, which I understand the criticism, but when it feels like you're getting to the point where people are rooting against a player for no reason, seemingly, it makes me uncomfortable on like a human level. And yeah, that's one of my many gripes with talking about basketball to begin with. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Ben. I think he will be better. but I can't act like I'm not extremely concerned, especially because of the potential of how bad his contract will look. And if Brooklyn implodes, that's another bad situation for him to be in. It would suck, man. I really hope things turn around. I'm not exactly the biggest Brooklyn Nets fan in the world, but I am pulling for Ben Simmons. So yeah, that's it. Goodbye.